Batman Year 100 by Paul Pope, a rip-roaring comic book limited series from 2006 in which the Dark Knight returns to combat injustice in a grim and dystopic future. So if you don't know, I'm a huge Batman fan. I'm always on the lookout for some good Batman comics to read. And I had been familiar with this comic for some time, but as I happened to be in the mood for a good Batman yarn, I finally decided to pick it up. And now that I've read it, I have to say I'm very, very glad that I made that decision because this shit goes hard. Like, this is truly some top tier Batman, in my opinion at least. So, Batman Year 100 is set in the year 2039, and for reference and context, the first Batman comic debuted in 1939, hence the title Batman Year 100. And it would appear that the United States of this future is something of a police state. Government surveillance seems to be rampant. The state seems to keep pretty close tabs on its citizens. There's very little privacy. Actually, that's not too terribly far removed from our actual real world of today. But never mind that, I suppose. As the book opens, Batman is being chased by some federal agents, one of whom has just been killed under rather dubious circumstances. And these agents are like, who the hell is this guy dressed, like a bat? Who is this? And then eventually someone is like, holy crap, that's the freaking Batman, that urban legend from, decades ago. It turns out he's real. So Batman escapes, but because this federal agent has been killed, and his death pinned on Batman, Batman is now a wanted man, whom the government is dead set on apprehending and unmasking. And so now Batman has to contend with these federal agents who are out for his arrest, and also try to unravel the mystery of what happened involving the death of this particular agent. Over the course of the story, he interacts with such characters as a young man named Robin, even though he is not costumed as Robin. He seems to be some kind of mechanic, actually. A doctor who is part of the Gotham City police department herself and who is sympathetic to Batman, as well as her daughter, who is effectively the new Oracle, kind of. And also the new Commissioner Gordon, who is the grandson of the original Commissioner Gordon. And eventually, Batman uncovers the fact that there is this sinister government conspiracy involving a doomsday virus, some pretty nasty stuff. And so now Batman has to expose the truth and save the day, right? Just good old fashioned Batman stuff. So that's pretty much the overview of the story. Now, I would note though that Batman in this particular comic does not appear to have any other secret identity, and that's really kind of the main mystery of this. Not just the mystery of what happened to this agent and like who are the people behind this like doomsday virus. Like that's also, a really intriguing and gripping mystery. But the real mystery here is who exactly is Batman, because we're 100 years in the future, or at least 100 years in the future from 1939 when Batman first debuted. And also, this story kind of uses other Batman comics as its backstory, kind of. So, like, the new Commissioner Gordon eventually does figure out that Batman at one point was Bruce Wayne. But we don't know if this is still Bruce Wayne. Now, at the end of the story, Commissioner Gordon addresses him as Bruce, but he doesn't really respond. And so I think it's meant to be taken ambiguously, like we aren't really meant to be 100% sure who this actually is. Like, I guess it could be Bruce Wayne. I mean, after all, we're talking comic books. We know that death means absolutely nothing in comic books. And it could be that this is like Bruce Wayne who took a dip in a Lazarus pit and has been revivified, right? But it could just be like a totally different person. Like I say, this Batman does not really have a secret identity. Like he is Batman. He is Batman. But anyway, so that's just kind of a summation of the plot. And so now let's talk about the technical qualities of this story. So in a typical book, I would talk about the writing, but being as this is a comic book, I will instead talk about the artwork. Now, the artwork is maybe not going to be for everybody's taste. In fact, I could see some people out there really not liking this artwork because of the way that Paul Pope draws his character. So I will show on here if I can some of the artwork, but it's kind of, well, I mean, you can see on the cover here that the way that Batman is drawn here is kind of gnarly. I'll say that it's kind of gnarly. And the characters in this book are drawn in such a way that their heads at times are kind of like potatoes. Like I'll show some of the artwork here if I can, like if this will show up. Like the characters are drawn in such a way that they look kind of like they have potato heads, very kind of lumpy looking. It's again, I think the best word that I could use to describe it would be like gnarly. It's very gnarly artwork in here. And like I say, I can see a lot of people like not liking it, perhaps because it's kind of different. But as for me personally, it was a little bit of an acquired taste, but I eventually got used to it, and it did not detract from the story. In fact, the gnarliness of it kind of complemented the tone of the story, I would say. And so actually, I ended up quite liking it. Again, I'm going to say that it's not going to be for everyone's taste. If you want something that's very like slick, very pretty to look at, this is probably not going to be the story for you because some of this artwork is honestly kind of ugly, but it's like done so intentionally. But like I say, for me, it kind of fit with the story, and I ended up kind of liking it. But make of that what you will. Now on to like the characters. The characters in this are pretty good, even though Batman, the central character here, is like a total blank slate. Like he is this like sort of mythic figure. I mean, he is genuinely like a mythic figure because in the setting of this world, everybody thought that Batman was like an urban legend. Like people, this is a kind of post superhero world, kind of like the Dark Knight Returns, right? Frank Miller's more famous tale of Batman returning to fight crime and injustice after an extended hiatus. That story takes place in a post superhero world where the only superhero who is left like operative at the story's opening is Superman, who is like a government stooge in that tale. This story also takes place in a kind of post superhero world where like nobody really believes in the Batman. He truly is like a mythic figure, an urban legend, and like his character is very cryptic in this story because again we don't know who it is. Like, is it Bruce Wayne somehow still alive all these years, or is it someone else under the mask? We don't know. But he is like that's the thing. It doesn't really matter who the actual person in the costume is. The real character, or at least the character that we all like come for, that we all like turn out to see, right, is Batman. And this Batman is Batman. Like, he is a badass. He is always like two moves ahead, right? Brilliant, also just like just like killer physique, body of a Greek god. And he is just the ultimate badass. And like that, that's all you need really in a Batman story, right? You need Batman to be the Batman that we all know and love, which is, Batman. Batman. I don't know how else to say it. Just, the uber badass that is Batman. Now the secondary characters are pretty good. We have the Doctor. who helps Batman, who is like a Gotham City police affiliate herself. She helps him, but we also see some conflict in her kind of because eventually she's like, this is kind of it's getting too big because this conspiracy is like very far reaching and very like sinister. And she's like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like, do I need to help this guy even though I think he's doing the right thing? And also her daughter, who is like the new Oracle, kind of. In fact, it even uses the word Oracle in the story. She's also interesting. She's kind of, it seems like, infatuated with Batman to an extent. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? He's Batman. And then you have Robin, who I don't think we ever know his name either, and we don't know, like, he never wears the costume. He seems to be just some kind of mechanic who is like Batman's associate. And then we also have the new Commissioner Gordon, who again is the grandson of the original Commissioner Gordon, and his character is probably the best as far as the supporting cast goes because he has some baggage because there's some dark stuff in his past when he worked at Arkham Asylum, where the government did some shady crap and basically slaughtered all the inmates of the asylum, and he was kind of complicit in that. So we see a kind of confliction in him and kind of a yearning for redemption to an extent. He was a pretty good character. So all in all, these characters they're good enough at least. They got me invested, and I was again I was engaged in their characters. So it's pretty good, I think, in the area of character. Now on to the actual story. I was hooked. It opens like in mid action. It takes no time getting into it, and it really doesn't let up. But it never feels too hectic or too rushed. Like it feels very well plotted. The mystery was very intriguing. I did not see this turning out to be like a conspiracy thriller involving, you know, doomsday viruses. I didn't really see that coming, but again, I was hooked. I was into this. I was invested. I was engaged, and I really loved this story. All the twists and turns, all the action, and it's got some good dialogue in it too as well. And it has some really great little moments in this, like in the opening pages when Batman is being chased by the feds. He takes refuge in this apartment where this kid is like playing with this little Superman action figure, and like he hands the Superman action figure to Batman, and then we have this moment where Batman just like looks like intently at this action figure, and like there's like what may be a tear rolling down. He kind of stutters, and like and then it just moves on. But that's a really really great little moment because you're able to kind of project a lot into that, because again this is set in like a post superhero world. There seems to be no other kind of uh, you know costumed crime fighters in this world other than Batman. So we don't really know what happened to Superman. We don't even know if there was a Superman in this world, because this I don't think this is meant to take place in like the main line DC continuity. So you can just kind of read a lot into that one brief little scene, but it's great stuff. It really is. And then probably my favorite moment in this story is when Batman is facing off against this federal agent who is also a telepath, like a Charles Xavier type telepath. And he's like mind controlling him to say who he is, because he's like, we want to know who you are. You're going to tell us who you are. And then Batman just blurts out the only appropriate answer, which is, of course, I'm Batman. Like, that was probably my favorite little moment in the story. But all in all, this was just a kick ass comic. It really was. It moved well. The story was intriguing. The characters were human, or at least human enough. And the artwork, while some people might not like it, I personally did, or at least did enough. And so for me, this is truly like this is some A to maybe S tier Batman storytelling right here. I freaking loved it. So to rate Batman Year 100, I'm gonna give this An A minus. I am. I'm going to give this an A minus. The only reason why it doesn't get higher than that is because I felt like the world building was perhaps a little bit lacking. And by world building, I don't mean like the police state, surveillance state kind of thing. I'm talking specifically about like the Gotham City that this takes place in. Gotham City is meant to be like kind of a character in its own right. But this Gotham felt kind of empty. There wasn't a lot fleshed out as regards the city. We don't know what the crime situation is like in the absence of Batman. So, and we don't really see a whole lot of like civilians, like Gotham City denizens. We don't really see a lot of them. So, if there is a weak spot in this comic, I would say it would be that like the world building is a little thin, but that's really just a minor complaint. And all in all, I freaking loved this comic. And so, yeah, for me, Batman Year 100 gets an A minus. Now, before I wrap up, though, I do want to say this. This edition of Batman Year 100 also came with a much shorter, like single issue comic, a Batman comic that Paul Pope also wrote prior to this, I believe. And it's called The Berlin Batman. And this really, really surprised me, but in a pleasant way, I will say, as we see I guess it's like an Elseworlds tale, I suppose, a reimagining of the Batman mythos set in like late 1930s Berlin, where Bruce Wayne, or actually Barack Wayne in this instance, is like a wealthy Jew who is like concealing the fact that he is a Jew from the Nazi regime in effect at the time. And the plot of that comic, the Berlin Batman, involves Batman trying to recover the confiscated works of the economist Ludwig von Mises. Yes, that's right. The economist Ludwig von Mises figures as a plot point in the comic The Berlin Batman, where Batman tries to recover the works of von Mises that the Nazis have confiscated. And I have to say, I did not expect to see that, but I was not displeased. In fact, Batman and Ludwig von Mises, together, I won't say I squealed like a girl, but I might have. I just might have. That was really fun. I did not just anticipate that being in here, but like I say, I was not displeased. I quite liked that. I thought that was a neat little story with some real world connections, and that tickled me. I'll say that really tickled me. But anyway, so yeah, Batman Year 100, great comic in my opinion. Have you read it? If you have, let me know down in the comments what you thought about Batman Year 100. If you haven't read Batman Year 100 and you are a Batman fan out there, you really owe it to yourself to pick this up. This is some like true quality Batman storytelling right here. This is some good stuff right here. This is the good stuff. This is upper tier Batman in my opinion, at least. So if you are a Batman fan out there and you haven't read Year 100, pick it up, read it. And if you're not a Batman fan, if you just want to like pick up a comic, I guess this is a graphic novel technically. This was a limited series. It was only like, I think it was like 4 issues. It has you can read it. It's not. I mean, it's its own thing. It's its own self-contained story. So if you just want to, give a Batman comic a go out there, then I would say this might be one that you want to pick up because again, it's its own little self-contained thing, but it's also really kick-ass, and I loved it. So I could recommend picking up Batman Year 100. And as always, if you have enjoyed anything you've seen or heard here today, remember to hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.